Letters of recommendation are one of the most important aspects of your application. Graduate schools take these very seriously, and so should you. Grades and research are also both important in your application, but nothing really replaces the first-hand opinion of people that are in your field that you were trying to really get into. I'm going to argue that there are 3 things you want in a writer. The first is you want them to speak on your ability to conduct and do research. So this means asking professors who have done research with you to be a writer is a fantastic idea. This should also give you motivation to work extra hard on your research as an undergraduate, because then that professor will be able to write a stronger letter of recommendation for you. The second thing is you want a writer to speak to who you are as a person. Can they vouch for things like your desire to do research, your work ethic, and things of that nature? And I think the last thing you really want from a writer is to assure the committee that the coursework and qualifying exams will not be an issue for you. Graduate schools don't want to accept you and then you flunk out after a couple semesters. I believe if they can do all 3 of those things, they can write a strong letter of recommendation. So if you are still a freshman, a sophomore, even a junior, you have plenty of time to build relationships with different professors and be able to have these sort of relationships where you can ask them to be your letter of rec. Most schools require 3 letters of recommendation. So in my case, only one of my letters of rec was a professor I did research with. I also did have a class with this professor, so I'm also hoping he can speak to who I am as a student. But the rest of my letters of rec were professors. Now, I didn't just randomly select professors whose courses I did well in. I asked 2 professors that I was very close with and could say more than just, yeah, he did well in my class, yeah, some good questions. One of my letters of rec, I would attend his weekly meetings and we would talk forever about his research and the research of his grad students who were also there and in the same field. So I feel that letter of rec could sure talk about me as a student, but also talk about who I am in terms of research interest. The other professor is another professor I'm very close with and still talk to this day. I had numerous classes with this professor, a lot of math courses, linear, a lot of my calculus courses, my differential equations courses. I also TA'd for this professor. I think I TA'd a trig course with this professor. So it's a professor that I've done more than just go to his classes with. And I would also attend his optics course. I think I audited that. Professor I would talk to a lot that I'm very close with. So it wasn't just random professors that I selected. They had the ability to say more than just, you did good in my course. I've had some people ask about things such as asking your boss to be a letter of rec. This might be a good idea, especially if your boss is in a field that you're trying to get into. If it's like a random boss, then probably not. So if your boss is like a store manager at Walmart, that's not going to be a very good letter of rec. But you know, if you did research at some lab, or maybe you want to go into engineering graduate school and you did an internship at somewhere, that could be a good letter of rec. Another student I was talking to talked about getting a high school teacher to be a letter of rec. I don't think that's a very good idea. In fact, I would go a step further and say your letter of rec should really have a PhD. Because think about what the letter of rec is trying to do. They're trying to convince the graduate committee that you will do well in their PhD program, meaning you will do well in their courses, you will do well in their research, you'll do well in everything that is entailed in getting a PhD. So if they themselves have not earned a PhD, it's going to be difficult for them to speak on how well you would do to get a PhD. It's not to say it's like the end of the world or anything like that, but I do think it's good if they have that personal experience. So that is kind of where I'm at with my application. Obviously, I cannot see what my writer said about me. For those of you that don't know, it's considered customary to waive your rights to see what your letters of rec sent. So I did that. I have no clue what they said about me. So I don't know exactly a lot about this portion of my application, but those were my 3 professors. Another thing I wanted to mention is on Grad School Cafe, so take this with a grain of salt, someone actually had a Nobel laureate be a letter of rec, and still got rejected everywhere. And it's not that he had a terrible application per se, but I think the point is, just because your professor is very well established, if he can't say much about you, it's not going to carry the same weight as if a professor could say a lot about you, but maybe isn't a Nobel laureate, for example. So I took that approach when I asked professors to be my letter of rec. They were professors that I knew very well, that I think could say a lot about me. Again, I'm not entirely sure how well that'll work out, but that was my strategy, and hopefully soon I'll be able to let you guys know how it all went. So hopefully that answers any questions you might have. If it did, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you.